Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by TheLions.com. I'm your host, Nate Weitzer, here flying with Midwest Mo as Josh Lander is traveling abroad today, so we are filling in here. As always, we're bringing you 2 game videos and a player props video. Like and subscribe to the page so you can find those on our YouTube channel. And we will continue to bring those every single weekday of the regular season. Doing pretty well on the player props. Both game picks hit last night as the Nets fired Steve Nash and still lost. But we're looking at a pretty large slate here on Wednesday. Lots to choose from. And I'll just run through the lines real quick. We got Wiz +7 at the Sixers. Celtics -2 at the Cavs after their nice overtime game in Boston last Friday. Hornets are +5.5 at the Bulls. The Hawks +2 at Knicks, and that's the game we're going to break down here. Kings are +6 at the Heat. Pistons +11 at Bucks. Clippers -6 at Rockets. Both of those are rematches. Raptors -6 at the Spurs. Jazz +6 at the Mavs. Grizz -4.5 at Blazers. And then the other game we break down is Pelicans -3 at Lakers. Just looking at the Hawks, Knicks real quick here. I mean, both teams coming off consecutive road losses. Both teams looking far worse on the road. I mean, the Hawks had some pretty notable home road splits last year, but I mean, there's some growing pains with both teams, again, integrating a ball-dominant guard in DeJounte Murray for Atlanta and then Jalen for the Knicks. I mean, the strength of schedule for the Knicks makes you lean, not really trust them against any sort of good team. Atlanta's losses at Toronto and Milwaukee, I mean, and they still lit it up offensively in those games. They just couldn't really handle the size and athleticism of those two teams. I mean, their defense continues to be sieve-like. The key for me here is that they're good in terms of denying paint points. And not allowing much on the 3-point line. And the Knicks, I mean, their biggest weakness, the Hawks, is allowing a ton of free throws. The Knicks are 29th in free throws made. They're first in paint points, so that's where they're scoring. And then on the other side of the ball, the Knicks, pretty poor 3-point defense, or pretty lucky, I'd say, so far. I mean, they're allowing, like they always do under Tibbs, right? Allowing the most 3-point attempts. So far, 6th worst mark from opponents, but we expected some regression from that last year. It hit like a brick. And Atlanta comes into this one hitting 12 threes at nearly 42% their last 3. So I think that their margin from beyond the arc should be enough to pull out this win at New York. And we know what Trae Young usually does at MSG as well.
Yeah, I like the under a little bit here, I think. Seeing some 234s out there. I do think the Hawks line seems a tad high as well. Kind of seems like it should be more like a pick 'em here. I think +2 is a bit much. But then again, like you said, New York does have a positive differential, and the Hawks don't. So they have a -1 so far. I just think when you look at a total of 234 and you're looking at two teams that have a pretty minimal amount of 3-point attempts. Surprisingly, in Atlanta's case, they have taken their 30th in 3-point shooting frequency, which is pretty crazy to say for a Trae Young team. And then the Knicks don't profile as a high 3-point team, and they've been on the low end. Unsurprisingly, they're 25th in 3-point rate there. So just when you're shooting a lot of 2s, I think it's going to be hard to get to 234, I guess. So I know Atlanta's defense stinks. That was predictable. They've stunk in past years. That's just how it's going to be when Trae Young's a big part of your team. But you hit the nail on the head with the Knicks shot profile allowed, really. They just seem to be pretty lucky so far. 3rd lowest effective field goal percentage allowed, but their shot profile is like bottom 10. So they're allowing some pretty high value shots. So I guess that's likely to regress. So I do like the Hawks in the under a bit here. Under more than Hawks, I think, but wouldn't mind a play on either one of those. I'm definitely going to be in there on the under, though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the total skewed because the Hawks, they've hit the over in 5 straight. They're allowing about 240. I mean, it's combining for 240 with their opponents in that span. And the Knicks offense has been far more efficient in the half court with Brunson. But if there's not a lot of trips to the free throw line, which I don't really see happening here for the Knicks, because again, that they just haven't gotten there consistently. There's not going to be a lot of fast break points. Atlanta's actually doing a really good job denying fast break points. They're 9th in 3-point percentage allowed. Then I think you get more of a bogged down game. And the reason I lean Atlanta more in a closer game, I mean, the Knicks are dead last in fourth quarter scoring right now. And both these teams just awful. Third and fourth worst defensive rebounding rate. That does make you a little nervous for the under, but I think Atlanta was very much more consistent going under on the road last year, less explosive, able to get into these grinded out games a little bit. And this is the 5th game of a 5-game road trip. I do kind of believe that they'll pull it together and go home on a high note here. Then they get 2 days off. Like I mentioned, Trae Young and what he does against this team. He's, his last time at MSG pulled out a 6-point win. The team shot 42% from three. Trae had 45 on 13 for 25 shooting. He averages 30 points, 9 assists with a 121 offensive rating, and is a plus 58 his last 9 versus the Knicks. Now, that didn't lead to a lot of wins because the Hawks had like nothing around him in a lot of those games. I mean, some of those games are COVID games straight up, and nobody was out there. But the Hawks, as you would expect, the non-Trae minutes are going to be much better with DeJounte Murray and the ability to stagger there. They have snipers off the bench, the Holiday Bros now, even though you don't have Bogey. So I think that they have a better second unit in terms of how they can exploit that Tibbs defense than in the past. And I think that that's why they'll be able to stay ahead here.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off what you were saying about as far as the under goes, when you're looking at these teams and you're expecting more of a half-court game, that's definitely what should be in the cards with these offenses. We know New York's always going to play a little slower under Thibs. He prefers to kind of play a little more of a grindy style. And Atlanta, they are the 3rd lowest turnover rate on offense, which is another thing that's just predictable year over year with this offense. Trae Young takes care of the ball, and the Knicks take care of the ball. They have the 6th lowest turnover rate as well, so shouldn't be a lot of runouts in this one.
Absolutely. Well, we have tons of games to watch, and this is just the first of the slate. We will come back and close things out with the Pelicans at Lakers, the late game here, and then bring you our player props. So like and subscribe to the page. Again, you can find all those videos up on the Lions YouTube channel. And until we see you next, happy betting.